The secret roommate may have moved out, but we're catching up with one of the residents of this house to find out about life after the news broke.
Also, we have an update on the man who fell in Mirror Lake earlier this semester. All that and more coming up next.
I'm Asia Gore.
And I'm Alice Bacani. You're watching Buckeye News Now. After weeks in the OSU Medical Center, the man that was pulled out of Mirror Lake earlier this semester has died. The Franklin County coroner reported that Tushar Kabra passed away September 19th at 11:15 a.m. Kabra fell into Mirror Lake on August 18th and was taken to the hospital in critical condition, where he later slipped into a coma. His cause of death was brain injury caused from drowning.
An explosion at the Columbus Police Department reported early Tuesday evening resulted in a large perimeter of downtown being closed off. The area of Spring Street near Marconi Boulevard was taped off as police with bomb-sniffing dogs and SWAT teams searched the area for suspicious activity. A witness told police that she saw a man place a package in a sewer grate, but police reported this morning that the explosion was battery-related. No one was reported injured, and damage to the police department is minimal. ABC6 paid a visit to campus this week to hold a town meeting to discuss House Bill 203. Over 100 people gathered in the Union to debate whether the bill, commonly known as the Stand Your Ground bill, should be passed into law. It allows people to use a gun as self-defense before trying other forms of self-defense or physically retreating from the threatening situation.
I feel like everyone that had an opposing side to it really misunderstood the fundamental law there. Yeah. There's 3 parts to it, and the whole idea, all that they wanted to say was if you're running down the street or like someone's running at you down the street, they made the point of they could be running for the bus or they could be running to attack you, and until they actually prove that they're going to harm you, you have no right to act. You have no right to just shoot someone with this law or without the law.
I'm definitely opposed to it. There have been city resolutions passed across the country, across the state against Stand Your Ground, and the representatives who introduced the bill are from rural areas, and we really think that this is a law that may work for some communities, but it's not going to work for ours. And Columbus and Cleveland and Toledo and Youngstown and all the urban areas in Ohio are really concerned about the racial effects that people's biases have just in general life, and when it's applied to Stand Your Ground, we really think it's going to be unsafe and unfair for our community.
When people at the meeting were asked if guns were necessary for self-defense, 66% said yes and 34% said no. 78% thought Ohio should have a Stand Your Ground law, while 22% said no.
We spoke to the interim president, Joseph Aludo, for the first time since he stepped into office after former President Gee. Alexandria Chapin is in the newsroom with the latest. Alex?
Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Asia. As you know, Joseph Aludo took over as president of Ohio State July 1st after Gordon Gee announced his retirement. In this week, Aludo sat down exclusively with Lantern Media Group to talk about the most important issues facing OSU today. Here's more.
I'm only serving as long as it is helpful to the trustees to have me serve. I've been at this institution for 22 years. I care deeply about it. I'll do what I can to help this university.
And among the things he's doing to help the university in what he calls a period of uncertainty does not include playing a role in the presidential search. But he did have some advice for that person who will take Gordon Gee's place. I
think there is an issue here which ultimately a new president is going to have to face, and that is the brand of the university has to be the brand of the university and not the brand of the president. And I think it's really important for us as we make a transition. You know, Gordon is such a special individual and a unique presence. But ultimately, this is about Ohio State and not about who is the president. It's not about Joe Aludo. It's not about the next president. It's about who we are as an institution, what we mean to the world, what we mean to Ohio.
Former President Gee won't be involved in that search either.
I have nothing to do with the search. I play no role in the search, and I shouldn't play any role in the search. Just as Gordon shouldn't play any role in the search in terms of determining the outcome. If somebody calls us and asks for information, that's fine.
When asked about the more than $12.8 million OSU will dish out to St. Stephen's Church in return for their promise not to develop housing for students, Oludo declined to comment.
Or should I simply say there's not much I want to say?
Oludo did have something to say about how he's doing in round 2 of interim presidency.
Well, I've been received very well. I mean, I haven't had any difficulty getting to people. People have been very, very supportive. I think that goes. I've been here a long time. Over the years, you build up credibility with people. I've worked with all of our donors. I've worked with the internal administration. I helped really chart the strategic plan for the university, which meant I had to work with the board. So none of this is new. I was interim president before.
Reporting from the newsroom, I'm Alexandria Chapin. Alice and Asia, we'll go back to you in the studio.
President Obama often visits campus, but it was another nation's president that spoke to students on Monday. Asia Gore has the story.
Not everyone's familiar with this flag or the nation it represents.
Somalia is a country and a land that's only existed to me through the poetry of my forefathers.
The president of Somalia paid a visit to Ohio State, one of the nation's 2 universities with a formal academic Somali studies program. Documents from the OSU library show there are about 200 Somali students at Ohio State. The president turned a speech to these students.
A challenge for the young Somali Americans in front of me today. Let me really concise here. Our 4 words: your country needs you.
But it's not just a small body of students that are limited to helping.
Ohio State University has a unique ability to assist us in building the capacity of our higher education institutions, which now all that exists in Somalia is a private.
A lack of education opportunities in Somalia have been criticized, but that's not the only thing protesters outside the union had a problem with.
The reason now we're protesting because of Somalia rejecting his policies. His initiative failing the rest of Somalia, and I hope OSU think about negotiate the rest of Somalis who live in the state of Ohio, who many of them graduated here, condemning his policy, because I wish they knew this issue will come.
The president addressed the issue of education in his closing.
The Somali government has put in place a new initiative called Go to School, whereby 1 million students will be going to public schools for the first time in 22 years in the next 3 years.
But dismissed other accusations in a preceding conference with the press. For Buckeye TV, I'm Asia Gore.
A rape victim is sharing her story to help women prevent future attacks. According to ABC6, the 20-year-old was assaulted on the corner of Norwich Avenue and High Street right off campus. In early September, she was able to fight back and her attackers eventually ran away. She's now sharing her story in hopes that others will learn from her experience. The woman's name is not being identified by the media. Ohio State recently received a grant to set up a tobacco research center, but the research looks at more than just physical effects of tobacco. Alice Bacani tells us why. Ohio State received $18.7 million to establish the facility, but the research doesn't just look at the physical aspects, but the biological, psychological, and the marketing aspects of tobacco use, and the incentives to use it in the first place.
So it's not kind of the traditional tobacco research, but it's also the decision making around tobacco use. What is the incentive that drives a young person into first starting tobacco use?
They will even research why some people like tobacco more than others.
What are the genetics that affect taste? You know, what makes tobacco taste good to one person and, you know, just taste terrible to the next person?
When the Lantern Media Group met with Interim President Joseph Oludo, he discussed his thoughts on making campus tobacco-free.
One of the interesting things here is if we're successful and the culture of the institution changes so that people really understand the negative impact of smoking, there will be internal policing. I mean, your colleagues will be giving you a hard time if they see you smoking. Your friends will be asking, what the hell are you doing? And ultimately, that's the enforcement we should have here. It's the informal enforcement of colleagues, of people who care about each other.
And while the university is studying the effects of tobacco use, students will still be free to use tobacco on campus. The university originally planned to go tobacco-free August 1st, but that date has been pushed back 5 months to January 1st. An Ohio State spokesperson told us earlier this semester that sanctions would be deployed on this date, but now we find that January 1st will be to continue to educate users and make them aware of the policies. Reporting for Buckeye TV, I'm Alice Bacani.
When we come back, we're joined by a special in-studio guest.
We'll tell you why your fellow students are dressing up in costumes.
Don't go away. We told you last week about a house full of students who had a bit of a shock when they discovered another roommate living in their basement.
Brett Muglin is a resident of this house and joins us today in the studio. Hi Brett, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Brett, the story has blown up and gotten national coverage. What's that been like for you and your roommates?
Well, I mean, it's a little sad to see your 15 minutes of fame go past, but it was awesome while it lasted. Like, I can't believe the story got as much coverage as what it did, but maybe it will make people, think a little bit more about student housing and the situations that we're in, because sometimes it's a little ridiculous the way that landlords can take advantage of you.
Now, Brett, you said before that Jeremy's a decent guy. What has your communication with him been like since the story broke out?
I don't think anyone has really communicated with him after he's left the house. So, I mean, it's probably best that way.
It was stated earlier that you and your roommates were pursuing legal measures with Norstep. How's that going?
So far, we've just been collecting evidence, and we're planning to move against them soon, but I don't think that it would be in my best interest to really mention too much about it.
We understand. And do you have any closing thoughts of how this whole story has affected your life as a student?
Well, just like having all this extra stress due to housing problems just isn't good, especially on your last year of school when you need to be focusing on school and getting jobs and getting interviews. But I mean, it's good that it was the person who it was down there and not somebody who is a lot worse, and I'm glad that nothing bad happened from it, and it's just a funny story that we can all laugh about.
Well, thank you, Brett. What a wild story.
You're welcome.
You can now study in the company of your favorite cartoon character. The Billy Ireland Cartoon Library in the museum in Sullivan Hall recently reopened after more than 2 years of construction. The updated space includes a new reading room which offers students access to the library's resources and other equipment resources. Even though the library is now open to the public, the grand opening is still set for November.
Campus has been buzzing about the new iPhone system update iOS 7, and by now most have made the switch. But according to the Huffington Post College, officials at Ohio University asked students not to update their phone via a campus-wide email due to their Wi-Fi crashing. Officials from Ohio University said they suspect the Wi-Fi crash was primarily from the downloads of the iOS 7. In related Apple news, the company also released its new iPhones over the weekend, the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 5C. According to Apple, they sold 9 million iPhones the first weekend.
Everyone has a story to tell, and photographer Robert Fogarty is on a mission to tell those stories. Ohio State students got to participate in Fogarty's Dear World project, posing with their own messages to the world written on their arms. The artist calls this project a way to share stories of hope, stories of struggle, and stories of a brighter day.
If you thought you saw Batman or Wonder Woman walking down High Street, it's not your spidey senses going bad. Asia Gore tells us why superheroes came to Columbus.
It's a gamer's world, a convention filled with video games, comic books, and fans who don't need Halloween to get into costume.
Everyone can express themselves. Everyone's showing their individuality, their love for superheroes, and their love for awesomeness.
I want this to be my future. I really want to get into comic art, film, anything fun, video games. So I just love coming to these places and really experience the product of a lot of hard work.
Fans had a chance to meet with their favorite characters, stars of WWE, Ghost Hunters, and Star Trek, to name just a few faces of the star-studded convention.
It's neat to put a human dimension behind the characters that you love so much.
And this love would typically make you a nerd or a geek, but fans say that's not such a bad thing anymore.
The whole geek culture is really becoming more pop culture at this point. So like if you look around, like especially with all the comic book movies like Avengers and Iron Man, Thor and Walking Dead, you know, it's all becoming more mainstream. So it's really becoming more for everybody and less just for geeks.
I think this is for everybody. I consider myself a hybrid nerd. I love my athletics, man. I go running, I go lifting, but then I have a huge soft spot for comics, superheroes, big gamer.
Comic-Con will continue its tour across the country, but that doesn't mean gamers are turning off their consoles anytime soon. For Buckeye TV, I'm Asia Gore. We all want news fast, especially when it comes to crime and safety. Well, a new company aims in helping Buckeye Alert Systems do just that. According to our partners at the Lantern, Ohio State switched to a new company called Rave Mobile Safety on July 1st. The new system should allow for messages to be sent within 7 to 8 minutes rather than in 15 to 20. The new system also includes an updated weather alert system, so students will receive tornado warnings automatically.
I mean, obviously there's going to be some time before, whoever it is that really sends out the alerts gets that message and before they can send it out. So I think all in all, 7 to 8 minutes is pretty good timing.
I don't live on campus, so it doesn't really affect me, but if I lived on campus or lived in a neighborhood, I would probably, 7 to 8 minutes isn't that bad. I mean, police officers usually don't report in that amount of time, so I think that's pretty quick.
When we come back, we're gearing up for the first Big Ten football game of the season.
And we'll see what Mother Nature makes of that with your weather update.
Stick around. We're joined now by our Assistant Sports Director, Franz Ross. Thanks for being here, Franz.
Thanks, Allison Asia. Head coach Urban Meyer has made it known that if Braxton Miller is healthy for this weekend's matchup against Wisconsin, he will start Saturday night. This is despite backup quarterback Kenny Guyton being named Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week for 2 consecutive weeks. On Tuesday, Coach Meyer released the 2 depth chart for this week, and both Braxton Miller and Kenny Guyton have been listed as co-starters for this Saturday's matchup against the Badgers.
I think Braxton will probably start. He had a good day today, and looks like he's pretty close to 100%. I just want to make sure running the ball he's good too, and he was, and Kenny's good. So right now we're still working through exactly how we're going to use manage the game, but they both look good.
He looks good. I mean, he looks like he hasn't really lost a step. Running wise, throwing wise, he looks fine. I mean, but it's practice, so you never really know between practice. But we try to simulate as many game-like events during practice as on Saturday. So when we come down to Saturday, he's ready. So I think he'll be ready. He'll be fine.
Sticking with this week's game, Ohio State officially moves on to the Big Ten portion of this season. As the Buckeyes currently hold the nation's longest win streak with 16 straight, Wisconsin invades the Horseshoe in prime time Saturday night to dethrone the undefeated Buckeyes. And speaking of dethroning, why is Urban Meyer claiming that Wisconsin is the king of the Big Ten?
I have a lot of respect for Wisconsin. 2 great backs. I don't know where the heck they keep getting these guys, but they have great backs, and we got our hands full. They have an excellent coach, and in my opinion, they're the king of the Big Ten right now, and this is an opportunity to go compete with a team that's competed in the Rose Bowl last few years.
I mean, we know we're the kings, so we're not worried about anybody else. Simple as that.
Let's shift to last weekend's game. Aside from the Buckeyes dominating Florida A&M last Saturday, there were other headlines making their way around the shoe. News director Alexandria Chapin has the story.
OSU is about to take on Florida A&M here at home, and although this rainy weather didn't stop the Block O section from coming out to cheer on their Buckeyes, a petition might bring those cheers to a halt. The Block O student section might take a big hit. Listen closely to hear the chant that has some Buckeyes fired up in a bad way. This petition is circulating to put a stop to the chant, and as of Saturday, it had 226 signatures. Those who are involved with the Block O organization are backing the petition.
Right, well, Block O is actually taking the initiative on this. We obviously want this chant to stop. This chant is awful, so we're changing it to OHIO, Let's Go Bucks. So that is the chant after kickoffs. We are leading it. We're marketing it. We sent an email out to all season ticket holders here. So everyone should be chanting OHIO, Let's Go Bucks. And we're going to end off with cheer that's been happening the past few years.
It's completely unnecessary. It makes the school look bad. Like,
it's not even that big of a tradition. Like, it just started like 4 years ago. I think my freshman year it started. It's just like, it makes the university look bad. Like, I would, like, as an adult, like, I wouldn't want to bring my kid back here and like have them hear like that profanity, and like you can hear it on TV. Like, overall, it just makes the university look really bad. People in the lowest box can hear it. It's just unnecessary.
Before kickoff was a much more sombering time. The athletic department took a moment of silence during the game to recognize Maria Taberi, a student who passed away unexpectedly earlier this week. Taberi's father is Dom Taberi of 10 TV Sports, and he expressed his gratitude to the Ohio State community via Twitter during the game. The match against FAMU was also Military Appreciation Day, and the SHU welcomed many military men and women as special guests. I caught up with Brutus Buckeye before the half to get his take on the game. All right, Brutus, what do you think about the game today? You heard it here first on Buckeye TV. During halftime, OSU's marching band performed 50 years of Beatlemania, but that wasn't what stole the show. The Ohio School for the Blind brought their marching band to accompany OSU in the Script Ohio. The School for a Blind made a Script Ohio in Braille and received a standing ovation from the crowd. Right after halftime, that expletive chant could be heard again. Although the Scarlet and Gray won 76-0 against Florida A&M's Orange and Green, their fans seem to enjoy their time in the SHU. I'm Alexandria Chapin, reporting for Buckeye TV.
The newly formed Big Ten Hockey Conference had their inaugural media day last week in St. Paul, Minnesota. Not only do the Buckeyes join a new conference, but they also have a new head coach in Steve Rolick, who takes over the former OSU coach, Mark Osecki. Despite rallying around a new coach, not to mention losing an All-American goaltender in Brady Jelly, Rolick believes that the Buckeyes have an opportunity to compete in the newly formed Big Ten Hockey Conference this season.
We're excited. We got a great group of kids back. With our leading scorers with Ryan DeZingle, Tanner Fritz, and Max McCormick back up front. Certainly going to have to lean on them. The biggest question we'll probably have is replacing our All-American goaltender, Brady Jelly.
Now for a look at your weekly weather forecast. We're looking at a lot of sunshine through Saturday with highs in the upper 70s. We did see the first day of fall, though, so lows in the low 40s and 50s could sneak into the forecast. You can expect some showers on Sunday, but Monday and Tuesday look to be cool mid-70s with some sunshine.
That's all we have for this episode of Buckeye News Now. Be sure to catch us here every week on Channel 19.
And be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for all the latest campus updates.
Thanks for watching.